For the past 4 years, I've been traveling the world, and on my journey across these continents, I've met countless fascinating individuals who all have different perspectives on life.
I knew from the moment I met those women that I had to tell their stories.
From Olympic athletes who performed at the highest level to artists who create unbelievable work and refugees who have overcome the most difficult of challenges. Each and every single one of them has their own formula for life, and I'm here to find out what that is.
What they wanted, whether they knew it or not, is they wanted to be inspired.
My name is Trevor Carlson, and this is the Formula Podcast. Welcome to this episode of the Formula Podcast. I'm your host, Trevor Carlson. Today on the show, I have my friend, John Roth. John and I met in Ecuador doing the 5 Volcano Challenge, which is an absolutely insane experience, as John can attest to. It was all part of, John, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was part of a fundraiser for LLS, where you're an active supporter and you participate in a lot of their fundraising activities. LLS is the Lymphoma and Leukemia Society. Or did I get that backwards?
Yep, you paused there.
Oh, okay.
Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Okay. And I'll let you talk a bit more in a minute about what they do. But John, you want to tell me about how you became involved with LLS? Absolutely.
So I was diagnosed about 4 years ago, a little short of 4 years. It was June of 2021, a normal doctor visit, middle of COVID, needed a doctor, just had moved back to our childhood home in Wisconsin after being away for over 20 years and needed a doctor. Don't go to the doctor much. Felt great. I was actually down about 20, 25 pounds. I was, midsummer kind of exercising, everything like that. Felt really good. The only thing that was at all different was I was a little short of breath at times, but went to my doctor previously where I was. They sent me to a pulmonologist and never didn't have anything come of it. So went to the doctor. The only day I could get in was the day before we were going on vacation. Actually, we were going to start driving all the way to North Carolina for the beach. And it was the only day I could get in. So when you talk about fate, things, really lined up there. Went to the doctor. He asked a couple questions, gave just a normal exam and said, your spleen is very large, to which I answered, thank you. Really didn't. I really didn't know what that meant, but he said, no, not always a good thing. And then he asked if he could do some blood tests, and I said, sure. I mean, I honestly felt about as good as I felt in a very long time. And he called about 3 hours later and said, your test came back and it looks like you have leukemia. Completely caught off guard. Was literally packing with my family. I've got 3 kids and my wife, and we were literally packing to go and leave early in the morning the next morning. And instead of going to the beach, we actually went to see a oncologist and blood cancer specialist. And then within 24 hours, I was in the hospital receiving my first dose of chemo and my protein inhibitor, which is the medicine that I take for leukemia. So talk about life-changing in a matter of 24 hours, go from really on top of the world to kind of a deep, dark place. And I spent almost 4 weeks in the hospital recovering and doing my first treatments. So crazy times. It was definitely definitely tough, especially during COVID. Couldn't have anyone come in the room, one visitor a day. But LLS, when it came to my doctor kind of talking to me about and explaining, he did a fantastic job. Dr. Atala, if I'm allowed to say my doctor's name, I am just, he knows the support I have for him. I'm 100%, he saved my life. I've got a wife who is a Googler of everything and self-diagnosis. So she, of course, went to Google to try to find out things about leukemia and CML, which is chronic myeloid leukemia, which is what I have. And as much as I told her not to do that, it's hard, it's hard to leave alone. So my doctor actually said, if you're going to trust something on the internet, go to lls.org. And it sounds like a pitch, but it absolutely was a pitch. He was trying to make sure that I got the best possible information for it. LLS was a great resource for me. It kind of explained everything in very human terms. And my doctor also did an incredible job of explaining it in terms. So come to find out that when I was diagnosed, my doctor said my spleen was so large that if I would have gotten in a car accident or something, or even, punched in the stomach or something like that, I could have died. And I said, well, doc, I'm going to be surfing on Sunday. And he goes, no, you're not. So that was the kind of the first eye opener. And apparently my blood work was almost 100 times. My white blood cells were 100 times higher than they should be. So even though I felt good, I was not doing well. But that's kind of how leukemia and a lot of leukemias are. They sneak up on you, and you may be doing everything you may feel great, and all of a sudden you realize that it's there. But a simple CBC blood test came back and told me that I had leukemia. So
that's wild. You got the phone call from your doctor. What was the first thing that went through your head when that happened? Because I'm sure
it's life-changing. I mean, so the fortunate thing was my entire family was there. We were able to talk. I mean, obviously a lot of tears, a lot of stuff like that. And we actually, made the decision to have our kids who are all in their 20s. They actually went to the beach. We'd been going to the beach for 20 years, and we actually told them, go, you can't really visit me, and I don't want you sitting around worrying about me. So we actually told them to go to the beach because it wasn't worth it for them just to sit and worry about me. So I told them I'd be fine. And, you do a lot of reflecting when you're sitting in a hospital room alone, and a lot of, fortunately I had, and this became very important for me, always been a morning person, but I had a hospital room that actually was facing east, and I got to see the sunrise. Got to see the sunrise a lot. And to me, sunrise is the most magical thing there is. And I try to make sure I see as many sunrises as I can. So my advice to people is see a sunrise. So that's the magical part of the day.
Yeah. Where does that come from?
I don't know. I've always been a morning person. I had a job that started early in the morning, and just like we vacationed and at the beach and everything, and just the special thing of a sunrise is that it's a dawn of a new day. It sounds corny. It sounds really corny, but it's just a sign that it's going to be a great day when you see the sunrise. So
yeah, that's there. What's that song? It's like this is going to be a little silly. It's like the sun will come up tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, when you're sitting in a hospital bed, like, you don't know if the sun is going to come up tomorrow. I mean, that's as scary as it's going to be when you have cancer. And like, just to see that sun, meaning, I'm going to be okay today. Yeah. So there's a special thing about that. So LLS was a very big part of it. And then to move forward, my wife was diagnosed last year with a different type of leukemia. So I have CML, which is chronic myeloid leukemia. It's a blood cancer, starts in the bone marrow. My wife has chronic lymphocytic leukemia, which is in your lymph nodes. It's, as my doctor says, so we have the same oncologist and blood cancer doctor, which is very crazy. But I wouldn't have it any other way, because she had already been to those doctor appointments with me. And when she was diagnosed, he knew how to talk to her. He knew that she was at all my doctor appointments. He knew that she had to hear that I was okay. And so he knew right away, don't go on Google, don't go
Yeah.
don't go on WebMD, and don't go try to self-diagnose yourself. And so I actually called him personally, and this is what was so special. As I called him personally, I said, okay, my wife now, hers is more of a gradual diagnosis from, she has an autoimmune disease. She had kind of rheumatoid arthritis and Sjogren's disease. So hers kind of morphed into chronic lymphocytic leukemia. It's a little bit different. And as my doctor said, they're only one letter apart, but they couldn't be further apart on a cancer, so they're just completely different things. Because obviously your first question is, what did we do in college when we met? Like, what did we run into that, we're both this way? We'd been married for almost 30 years. And
I was thinking, like, check the water pipes in your house.
Yeah, seriously. Did we smoke something funny in college? It was just crazy. So, and, to this day, they're very different cancers. We've learned, a lot about them. They're just very different cancers. We're just, I don't know, but we're very fortunate that both are of the chronic kind. A lot of the things you learn about when you have cancer, it's, cancer is one of those things where you're not born, or you don't learn about it in textbooks unless you're in medical school. But chronic, when it comes to cancer, chronic is kind of a good thing. It's good because chronic almost means that you can live with it, then you can treat it and everything. And so you learn the difference between like chronic and acute. Acute is, where it's aggressive. And one of the things that LLS.org, kind of teaches you is the differences between the two. So we're very fortunate. We're very positive people. We're very, we're about kind of the human spirit is the best medicine. Although we both take incredible medicines that treat our cancer. And, 20 years ago, for my cancer, the life expectancy for 5 years was like 30%.
Wow.
Now it's well over 70 and almost 80%. So like my doctor and I have both agreed that, cancer's not going to get me. I'm going to die of something else. I'm going to die of old age before cancer gets me. Like, those are the magic things about cancer and medicines and how far we've come. So we do consider ourselves very fortunate. It has changed our life, but it's changed our life, I feel, for the better. We do a lot of things with LLS and do a lot of things to give back, especially like we did this climb where I was, had the amazing opportunity to meet you and the rest of the team. It was a life-changing event. Not only did we raise, $100,000 for leukemia research, I met 4 other patients who've been fighting leukemia as well. Great stories and just incredible people. And then the opportunity to climb up volcanoes with leukemia doctors that are practicing doctors, and the chance to see them outside of the hospital and outside of the medical world was really special.
Those guys are machines. That's not.
They were absolute machines.
Like,
some of the most, I won't, if I say Noah's name, and he may be the most, he may be the most brilliant person I've ever met. Like, just sharp. Everything about him was, he was just one of those people, and was personable as well. So they were just really amazing guys and well, I guess, and girls to climb with. So I have so many questions I want to ask about everything up to this point. So we talked about the sunrises, but do you feel like there was a change that happened with you from like before the diagnosis and after? I've always been a positive person. I've always been a very, like type A, talkative. I was into sales. I've always been that type of positive person. I always think that I can, that you can get your way out of every trouble if you're just, it sounds corny, but if you're just positive enough about it. Like I've always been that kind of person. I think anyone who's around me would say, yeah, he's just, he's always in a good mood, very likable guy. Yeah. So, to me, I really talk about that, as corny as it may sound. It's the power of the human spirit. If you don't let it get you, you can be stronger. And so when I was in the hospital, you have a chance to feel as low as you possibly can, and you're crying for hours. You're praying and saying, why me? God, what did I do? And the answers, or the questions to my doctor, because I've had friends and family members that either had skin cancer, and they're California kids of the 60s, and so there was, for lack of a better term, there was a reason that they knew where their cancer came from. Okay. Or they were smokers for 50 years or something like that. So you kind of knew where it came from, and no one could explain to me why I did, and my doctor's like, unless you actually were exposed for 50 years to benzene, like inhaling it, which you're not, they don't really know. And so it's really tough. It's tough to hear that, because as humans, we want to have a reason for everything. Like, what did I do that caused this? And part of that's a good thing that I don't, because like, I'm not reliving the past saying, why did I inhale? Like, why did I do something? Because I don't, it was, I was in college in the 80s. Like, we were athletes, we were lifting, we are doing everything. Like, we're taking bark extract or something like that, whatever it was. You think it's like, you want to have a reason for everything that happens. And unfortunately, if there is a reason, we just don't know what it is. And so that's a tough thing to grasp. I think when you're in a hospital, like, asking why, and you're asking God, why me? Why did this happen to me? There's a comfort in knowing that I don't think I did anything wrong, but also you do a lot of self-reflection. And by the time I got out of the hospital, actually, I felt better than I probably was. I got out of the hospital, actually went to my sister-in-law's with Joanne, and I felt so weak. Well, my hemoglobin was so low that they had to rush me to the hospital, and I had to have I kind of overdid it, and they had to give me a blood transfusion. So I was back in the hospital again for another 5 days, which really kind of sucked. I have this feeling that I can overcome anything if I'm just stick my mind to it and I'm positive about it. So,
well, it sounds like you had some rough moments there, and I'm curious, so if you find yourself in a, I mean, not everybody finds themselves in a position like that, and especially after like your spouse gets diagnosed as well. So it's kind of like you guys have really been put through the ringer. How do you, like, what is it, or how do you keep going? Like, if you're talking to somebody and you know that they're having a rough time, from your perspective, like, what do you tell that person? How did you guys work your way through this? I'm so curious, because there's like a level of resilience. The fact that you guys, like, I've met you, I've met your son, I've never met the rest of your family, but I can imagine if anything like you guys, they've good positive vibes, good energy, good people. It cannot be easy to hold on to that when basically like life just keeps throwing curveballs at you. So tell me, walk me through that.
Yeah. You can overcome anything if I firmly believe this. You can overcome if you're determined and you have a positive attitude about it, you can overcome anything. And I think that's so I have a connect with people at my work where we talk, and it's different cancer patients, everything from, we have breast cancer survivors, rectal cancer, like all different types, and we're all going through different things. And some of them are extremely rare cancers. Mine's a fairly rare cancer, but extremely rare cancers. The one thing that I have seen and can say for myself is talking about it with similar people is absolutely therapeutic. And it is, knowing that you're not alone, knowing that there are other people that have the same crazy side effects that, like, I mean, you think, man, this is only happening to me. Why is this happening to me? And then you talk to someone who's been in that, or even been worse, or gone through the chemo, or gone through radiation therapy, which I haven't done. I was on heavy chemo. And so it's just really not, they went in there and they blasted the cancer. And so it could barely move for a while. And I was in the hospital. The people that go in and do chemo and radiation therapy, and then they spend the next few days, like, really recovering, it can really beat you down. But when you talk to someone who's been through that same thing, and there's a comfort in knowing that you're not the only person who's been through that, that's your motivation to do that can overcome obstacles. Something you didn't know. And when we were on our hike, I thought I had gout in my foot.
Oh, no.
Well, I actually had a broken foot.
Oh, no.
So here's the other thing is, one can think that things just happen. My wife and I were in a head-on car collision in April. This was about 2 months before our climb. Someone came across and came right into us. We were not doing anything other than driving and follow the person in front of us. And I won't get into the details, but the new vehicle that we were in, and it was a rental, it saved our life. And one could think, wow, holy cow, this couple's both got cancer. They were just in a head-on collision. But we walked away. And so it's hard not to feel positive about, as crazy as that is. But I started having a couple pains from that. Obviously, had some bruises, bumps, but to walk away from a head-on car collision it's incredible. But you can think, man, does this guy have a rain cloud over his head? I look at it the other way, is that I've been incredibly fortunate that these things have happened to me, and I've been able to overcome them. And one of the things was, I thought I had gout, because gout forms. One of the things that forms gout is cancer cells. When they are killed by your chemo, it creates uric acid, and so you can get bouts of gout, which is a very painful side effect. I thought I had gout in my foot, but it turns out I had a fracture in my foot that actually pulled a piece of the bone away. So I was hiking in Ecuador with a broken foot, but I was not going to let that prevent me from going to Ecuador. So one of those crazy things. I'm a firm believer that if you want to do something bad enough, you'll overcome it. And so when it comes to other people, and if people, the 4 or 5 people that may hear this podcast, because I'm not that exciting of an individual, if there's someone that has cancer, there is a ton of other people that are going through the same thing, and that have had what you're going through or worse. It's just there's so much support out there for people I think that's the biggest thing. And that helps to understand that positive human spirit is that I can overcome this, and other people have overcome this. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. I imagine you've probably met a lot of people after they've had the diagnosis. And I imagine there's probably a look that a lot of those people have, where it's scared, kind of confused or lost. I'm just knowing you, I'm sure you're extremely supportive and kind. What do you tell those people?
Yeah, it's kind of tough. There's a fear of the unknown. Wow, now what? There's, it's that shock and awe. It was for me, obviously, I cried a lot. It was very difficult, but now I try to, when Joanne was diagnosed, I tried to go straight to the positives. This is okay. They found it. They found it at an early stage. We can get, there's medications that you can take to control it. In my mind, if you're able to live with a cancer and you're able to control it, that's the name of the game. Obviously you want to beat cancer. Obviously it's if it went away, that's great. But and we've had a few discussions about this in my family and even with my doctor, it's if I can get cancer controlled to where my medication doesn't have that many side effects, or I can live with it. and I can, control it. That's everything. Like that's is just as important. And so you try to go to the positives. When I talk to people, and I've talked to a few people that they were, you're extremely scared right away. And so like, okay, how do we make it to where people, like when you're diagnosed with cancer, there's like a step by step. Okay, here's what you do. So I've actually worked with my company, and the ironic thing is, companies like mine have a, if you're expected mother, they have like a full checklist of, okay, do you have a doctor? Do you have this? Start doing this. Start with your diet. All these things. Why can't there be something like that for a cancer diagnosis? Because it's happening that much more than it used to. And why can't we treat it the same way? So all that's part of being, if you're more prepared for that discussion. Mm-hmm. And I think as more people are involved and have friends and relatives that have cancer, the more people, it's never going to be okay, but people will understand, oh, okay, I have CML. Well, I listened to this guy, John, and he had CML too. And he didn't right away say, oh, I'm going to die. So I think we're getting better at that. If that's a crazy thing to think about, we're actually getting better at having cancer. And
yeah,
it doesn't sound right, but it is.
Yeah.
20 years ago, it was a death sentence.
Right.
And it's not necessarily anymore. And I don't want to downplay it, because people still die every day of cancer. Yeah. But we're getting better at it. So
yeah, I'm not an expert on any of this stuff, but I think that just from the outside, it does look like some of the medicine, like the treatments, all these different things have evolved. So at least people can have a longer life expectancy as well as like a higher quality of life. So I think that anything that gets closer to actually having a cure for all the different forms of cancer. So it feels like a ladder, and hopefully we're getting close to the top.
I think we are. I think that, and you talk about AI, and talk about like we are exponentially getting better at solving those mysteries. And like where 20 years ago, there was the only thing you could do for CML was basically a bone marrow transplant, and then one medication was out there. Mm-hmm. Now there are 5 choices. There's 5 different medicines, each working in a little bit different way. And if you have a bad reaction to one, or one doesn't respond as well, you can try another one. There are a lot of cancers like that. So I lost my roommate in college to a brain tumor. So completely different. Once again, different type of cancer, but he was like, his mother wanted him to come home. We were seniors in college. He actually told his family, I want to stay with my boys. I want to stay with my roommates. And so we actually took him to the doctor, took him to his treatments. He would rather have the support from us. He'd probably be alive now if it were 20 years later. So like those are the kind of things. Every year, every day we're getting better. And I think, hate to say it, but we just have to outlive the solution. So.
Yeah. I want to talk a bit more about the trek, not just about your broken foot, which is also just mad. It's like that was a hard. So I think that you and I were in agreement that before the hike started, we were like, this won't be too bad. Like I've done some really hard hikes. I don't think this one's supposed to be as brutal. And then day 1 happened, and it was like, oh my God, what have we gotten ourselves into?
Yeah.
So,
what did we get ourselves into? I've always, and I have done adventures before. I was a very athletic person growing up. I've done 11 marathons. I've climbed mountains before in the West Coast and everything, but I stopped a lot in my mid 40s. And so for almost 10 years, I was not doing those kind of crazy things. Yeah, we got to Ecuador, and first of all, you've never been at an altitude that high. You're a world traveler. So I was immediately fascinated with you because like you've been everywhere. And so Christopher and I got a chance to spend some time with you and around Quito and that, which was really awesome.
Yeah.
But we had a chance to acclimate, and it was even walking to dinner the first night.
Yeah.
And I was out of breath. I'm like, oh boy, it's like I trained for this, but
yeah,
I'm at, and I have this altimeter on my watch. I'm at a paltry 700 feet above sea level here. And, you go from 700 feet to 10,000 or 11,000 feet in Quito.
Yeah.
And like, wow, we're not in Kansas anymore. We're not in Wisconsin. We're not in Wisconsin anymore. So even just getting to dinner that night that was a hike. And so, yeah, it was a bit like, okay, I did my training, but there's nothing that can really prepare you for the altitude. And so we got out there on that first hike, and it was not your normal, like it wasn't a warm up hike. There was nothing warm up about it. And it was, oh, by the way, it was cold and rainy.
Yeah.
And you couldn't see anywhere from the summit either. It was like, basically. So here I am. I wasn't the oldest. But I may have been the maybe least qualified or one of the least qualified. And then you, who are significantly younger, you are a world traveler, have been at altitude, but you had probably 60 to 70 pounds of camera equipment that you're hauling in your backpack. And so like that was the ultimate equalizer, was it was like you were carrying added extra weight. And so, yeah, we got to that first hike, and it was okay. It was like, okay, so that's the way this is going to be.
Yeah. Oh.
That was nuts. We got to the summit. There's nothing like sitting on the summit and knowing that you've accomplished something like that. I mean, it's such a euphoric feeling that you actually thrive for that feeling and want to do it again. So, and we did it a few more times, but I think I definitely got caught off guard. The altitude was the biggest X factor, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, I trained so much for it. I was like, every day I'm in the gym, sometimes twice a day, and then I just felt I did like an 8-hour hike with my camera gear on my back, but I wasn't at altitude. So it was I just was destroyed.
Yeah. That was, lack of oxygen. Who knew that lack of oxygen is the ultimate equalizer? Oh. I have been, I've done, like I said, I've done marathons. I've climbed Mount Rainier, which is 14,000 feet, but there's a big difference in hiking in the Andes. Like when you're there, when you start, and I mean, that was quite the challenge. So, the first of 5 wonderful days of hiking, it was what an incredible experience. So,
yeah. So you had, on those 5 days, you had a couple of rough ones. There was, I remember there was like 2 days that were I think they're pretty challenging for you. The one where we ended up only making it to the refugio because it was hailing.
It was sideways. It was sideways hail. I mean, yeah, the wind and and that was Lila was with me in the back, and we were both really struggling, and there was a stretch, and it was a little like a moon landscape. Like there was hardly any vegetation. Yeah. And it was sideways hail. You were sore from, I think was it our 4th day? It was I think it might have been our 4th day. Yeah. And so you're already tired. I mean, we were exhausted, and I mean, it was one of those days, and I kept kind of falling behind a little bit. And Christopher, my son, was there. He made it up with the earlier guides, and we had these amazing guides who, the one he had to stay back with a couple of us. Not like we weren't really far behind, but we were behind, and he climbed at our pace and kept us going. And he helped me breathe, and he helped me get air into my lungs. It was very good, but it was such a tough climb when I got to the kind of rest station. It's basically the summit station to go up. I just broke down. Like literally my body I collapsed to the ground, and I just started bawling. I started crying. It was tested to my ultimate, almost as far as you could push me.
Yeah.
And so there's not many, I don't know that there's that many people who have tested themselves to sheer exhaustion like that.
Yeah.
That was crazy. I mean, it never felt unsafe. I never felt like there were times when we felt like we were going to fall off the side of the mountain. I mean, there was that.
Yeah.
But you never felt like we were in real danger. But like when I hit that, there were so many times when I just wanted to stop and say, I can't do this, and I can't. And we just kept going. When I hit that and I saw Christopher and I saw you guys, it was one of those times I literally just broke down and started crying, bawling. So,
yeah, I just remember being on that like super sandy incline where you couldn't see anything because of all the rain and everything. And I was just like, that was the only point on the hike where I wanted to quit. No, there was one other. It was the first day when we hit the point where we turned right to go up the summit and the wind was coming across. I was like, this is awful. I don't want to be here.
It really was there were times when you wanted to quit, but something kept you going. You always want to test yourself, and we really did.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome.
So why do you think that when you finished the hike that day, why do you think that was such a emotional moment for you?
It was, everything kind of came together. My struggle with cancer, pushing myself to that, almost to sheer exhaustion, having to fight to put one foot in front of the other while being pelted. I have always been one of those people, we're getting to have memories now. I've always been one of those people that you have to test yourself almost on a daily basis to keep growing and to keep getting better. But when you do and you succeed, it's that much better. And it's I enjoyed pushing myself. You hate it while you're doing it, but everything kind of fell into place because you're talking. I wasn't much of a talker, and I usually am, but I was gasping for breath most of the time. So I wasn't doing a lot of talking, but you're thinking about everything. You're thinking about your family. You're thinking about your, as a cancer patient, you're thinking about your blood count, and you're thinking about, is this good for me? Am I hurting myself? Am I doing this? And then you get to the top, and it was like everything that was weighing on your shoulder, everything that you worried about, I'm not going to make it. All of a sudden, it was like taking that backpack of 60 pounds of camera gear off. It was this euphoria of, oh my God, I did it. And I honestly think we as humans, we need to challenge ourselves to continue to get better.
Yeah.
And there's, even if you don't always succeed, just to challenge yourself and not be just happy, just existing, I think is really important. And it's something I've kind of always lived by. I mean, that's why I've run 11 marathons and haven't always been in the best of shape for doing them.
Yeah.
My theory with running was always, if I ran, I could eat whatever I want. I mean, literally that was my thing. I wasn't there to win. I wasn't there. I was just there to literally get through it. And it allowed me to eat. I love to eat. So it allowed me to eat whatever I want to. But but the test of myself of could I do it? I didn't like being told that I couldn't do something.
Yeah, I get that. It's I have another challenge for you after we're done talking about the hike, because I was just thinking of, you said you really enjoy these challenges, so I have one for you for the coming summers.
All right.
And it's doable because there's like 80-year-olds that do it. So you're totally.
Well, and that was the other thing. It's like, okay, so I've got Lila, who has acute myeloid leukemia, very similar to mine, but more of the blast stage, and hers has kind of gone away and come back. So she's beaten it, but it's come back, and she's been through so much. And it's like, okay, if Lila can do this, I've got to be able to do this. Like you're with people, and you're like the same thing. For like when you're diagnosed, it's like, boy, if they can do it, come on, toughen up. I know I can do this. Yeah. So it's the challenge of that.
I'm sure it's tough though, because even if you see other people going through it, when it's you, it's just like, I've never been in your shoes, but I can just imagine you're just like, damn, this still sucks.
It's interesting. Like, my philosophy, I know I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but like the common thing you hear when you tell someone you have cancer is, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, don't be. Like, I know, and like, it's not mean. I know they are sorry, but don't tell me you're sorry. I'm not sorry. I honestly feel like I was given this because maybe God gives difficult things to people that can handle them. And so I don't like it when people say, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. If you're around someone who has cancer and you learn that they have cancer, just acknowledge it, but say, hey, you look amazing. Great that you're beating it, or something. There's got to be some different way to acknowledge someone when they say they have cancer. Yeah. And because you don't, as a cancer patient, you don't want someone feeling sorry for you. You don't maybe someone does, maybe some people do, but we don't want pity. It's like, it's interesting. I try to change the subject or talk to people when they say, oh, I'm really sorry to hear that, or you must be devastated. It's like, no, I'm fighting it and I'm going to beat it. Yeah. Simple as that. So,
all right. This is a little out of left field. Is there anything that you stopped caring about after the diagnosis that you cared about?
You mean, did I have a bucket list that I wanted to do? Did I have,
it could be something that like pissed you off, or it could be something that you thought was important to you, but then afterwards you're just like, it's not important.
Don't sweat the small stuff anymore. You do look at things a lot differently. Like, you look at special little things like and not unimportant, simple things like just a few minutes being with your kids or being with your family, and a simple cup of coffee watching a sunrise. Like, I have been known to sit there with a cup of coffee, watch a sunrise, and just literally start crying of joy out at, I didn't stop caring about things, but I maybe didn't let some things get to me as much. Mm-hmm. And you really start appreciating the little things. I didn't you didn't have this thing like, oh, I want to stop working or something. I enjoy what I do. I love my job. And I didn't want to stop. You don't want to change your life as much as possible. Right. Because hopefully you were doing things that you wanted to do. And if you're happy doing those, you'd want to continue doing that. Like, I can understand if someone's like been in the same job and I'm not happy and everything, them diagnosed with cancer, and all of a sudden I've got all these things I want to do before I die. I looked at it differently. Like, I can't wait to retire. I'm about 3 years from retiring. I can't wait to retire because there are so many things I want to do to give back because of the experiences I've had since I've been diagnosed. It's really weird, but like, work more with LLS, do more with other cancer patients, work with the hospital for the people that have been so special and saved my life, and do all that. I don't sweat the small stuff, but I still, I still get angry at a Packer game if they're not doing well. I still get, no, I don't, I say don't sweat the small stuff, but I still do. I mean, I try to keep my life as much as it was before, and just try to appreciate some of those little things that are really special.
Yeah. I think maybe what you're trying to say is like some of the stuff that pissed you off before still might piss you off sometimes, but the stuff that maybe you didn't stop to recognize before, like those little moments, because maybe it's just, I don't know, I don't want to speak for you, but could it be because like you don't know how many, now you know that there might, like you don't know how many sunrises there will be, and so now each one is like, wow.
That is a really good way to put it. Yeah. I mean, is this going to be the last time I get to see a sunrise? Is this the last time I get a chance to go to South America? Is this, and it may be. I don't have a bucket list, but I kind of do. It's like there's some things I really want to do. I just booked a trip for my daughter and I to go to Australia. I've always wanted to go there. So is that me with a bucket list? Maybe, but I'm also, I really want to do the things that, that I want special events. I want to really appreciate that time because to your point, you don't know when that last sunrise is going to be. And morbid as it sounds, it might not even be from my leukemia. It might be from something else. We were out in New Hampshire watching my son, and it was his last lacrosse game. And it was like, I'll never get a chance to see him play lacrosse again for, I grew up playing lacrosse. It was senior night, and we're supposed to walk him on the field, and literally going to the hotel to get our winter coats because it was a little cool. And we got in the accident. And I spent that night in the hospital rather than walking my kid out for senior night. So like, you just don't know when it's your last time that you're going to have to do something like that. So yeah, you do appreciate those things and you do think about, but I try not to take it in a negative way. I try to say, all right, I'm really going to appreciate this and really going to make the most of it.
Yeah. It's like taking it to the level of excitement because like, wow, this is precious versus like sadness. Like, a friend of mine said this, it was like, I don't know if he was talking about dating someone or what, but he was like, so maybe it's a different context, but he was like, don't cry or be sad that it's over. Just like, smile that it happened. And
be happy for what did happen rather than dwell on the fact that it's no longer happening.
Yeah. So speaking of important moments, there was a day that Christopher went off ahead and climbed. It was very harrowing for him because he was not a fan. I don't know if he's normally afraid of heights, but he was definitely afraid of heights that day. And, he made it up and he tore his pants up coming down. I don't know if they were coming up or down.
It was coming down. It was, you guys were sliding down on the scree. I got this picture of him holding up this pants with, completely destroyed. That was a magical day. I think I don't know that I've felt prouder than that day, like seeing him come back, knowing that he was okay.
Yeah.
Because you guys, that was, so that was one of the days where most of us didn't go summit. We kind of stopped at that, at the final point.
Yeah.
And a group of you went up to summit and Christopher was like, no, Dad, I'm not going to go without you. And I'm like, oh yes, you are. I said, you're ready for this. I said, and I don't have anything to prove. So I'm like, you go, but you sit there and it's like, I still remember we stayed there for a while. Then we walked back. We weren't able to, it's not like we had sat phones and could hear. We had to kind of wait and see. Boy, you really, I worried. And just that feeling of boy, what if something happens? First of all, my wife's going to kill me, but because you let that happen to our son. But the other thing, but you just like, man, that was tough. And you sat there and it's like, man, what if something happens? I knew he was in good hands, and I knew you guys were going to be fine, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
And when we got the call that you guys had summited and then were on the way down and we're kind of at the out of kind of harm's way.
Yeah.
Like it was like me, like summiting the mountain myself, all of a sudden euphoria. And it was like I went from really worrying and really being concerned to like, oh my God, proudest dad moment ever. And like when he came down and this big smile on his face, the hug I gave him was surreal. It was unbelievable. And for Christopher, because 6 months ago when I said, oh, by the way, your passport's good, we're going to Ecuador to go climb. I mean, he literally had no idea. It was like he was kind of voluntold to do it. But he was an athlete, he was in shape, and so I knew he'd be okay. But like, he's like, what? We're going where? And, for him to go from that, like, Dad, what are you getting me into now, to all of a sudden, we kind of meet all of you, which, I mean, I don't think we could have had a closer group if we tried. I mean, you can't handpick people to be as kind of close and complimentary as we were. And for him to do that and come back down and like, I mean, once again, I mean, maybe I'm a crier, but like when I knew he was okay and I saw him walking in the distance, it was like, oh, wow. It was just exhilarating. I mean, it really was. So you guys, it was amazing. I think he tested because he was scared as well. Same reason. And I had summited mountains before and, done mountaineering and everything like that, but he really hadn't. And that was testing him to kind of the abilities. And you guys know more than I do. You were up there with them. It was, I was worried.
Yeah. I left him with the guys because he was, it was dangerous. It was definitely dangerous because I've never been on a climb like that where there's so many loose rocks. So then we were like, I don't know. Yeah. So I think he was having a bit of a hard, because he's a tall guy. So when you're tall and you're a big dude on the side of I'm not nearly as big as him.
Yeah,
so
he's 6'3". So he was.
Yeah, he's a big boy. So I think for him it was, I don't know. I just have a feeling that you're just a little more uneasy when you're at that height and you're that tall. Because And
for what it's worth, you didn't have Dad by you. Yeah. I mean, he was, and I mean, he had to be thinking like, well, if my dad can do this, I know I can do this.
Yeah.
I don't know that he'd ever been tested. I know I can say this for a fact. He had never been tested like that before either.
Yeah.
Boy, what a gift that was to give to him, was the ability to do something and challenge yourself to close to your extent and come back down. Like you could just see it in his face after I hugged him, and he's like, he was swearing, he was so elated. I knew that, man, he's a different person after that. Like that gave him a lot of confidence. So I highly recommend that. Not that everybody do it. It's a crazy thing, but like that feeling of accomplishment and to be able to give that to one of your children is just remarkable. And to be able, and so the fact that he went with you guys and he didn't have Dad as a crutch, kind of, and I wasn't a crutch, like I wasn't helping him, but on the previous climbs, like, well, if my 53-year-old dad can do it, certainly the 22-year-old Christopher can do it. So this one, and with that climb, he officially was higher than I've ever been. And so that was kind of a cool thing for him, is that all my climbing in the past and everything, he officially was higher than I'd ever been. So
that's wild.
It was neat.
Yeah. That was just a wild, I mean, the whole thing was just a surreal experience. It was just like, I think there's a quote or something I don't know if it's a quote or something I just read, but it was like, on the other side of whatever it is that you're afraid of is like, usually it's generally the unknown, but most of the time when you face a fear, that the only good things are on the other side.
That's absolutely true. Like that's kind of going back to that thing of test yourself. It doesn't have to be to your fullest extent, but just test yourself, because a good thing is on the other side of that if you accomplish it. So, I mean, if it's something at work, if it's something with your family, if it's something, with your relationship, something like that, just those little challenges to make you just increase your confidence or do whatever those are. There are good things that are on the other side of it. Overcoming our obstacles is what makes us humans as good, the special things that we are.
Yeah. So I've had you on here for like an hour now, and I know we're probably coming to the end of our time, but I wanted to ask two more quick questions, and then we can wrap things up. So the first one is, I know you've spent a lot of time donating time to LLS, donating money, participating in their fundraising efforts. Why is it important for people to involve themselves in organizations like LLS?
LLS is special because it's not as well known as like Susan B. Komen, in the States, Susan B. Komen for breast cancer. Like leukemia doesn't have the flash, or it's not as widely known as a lot of the other things. But LLS does just incredible things. Like Climb to Cure is partly sponsored by LLS, which is the climb that we went on. It's important because it provides the support and progresses the assistance with everything from help with the medication. They work with the doctors. They work with, pharmaceutical companies. They work to make things better. They do a lot with providing, medications are very expensive. They do a lot with providing assistance for people that can't afford their medication. And so LLS helps do a lot of those things. It helps, get the right medicines for the right people. It helps people that are, not as fortunate as I have been. And so those are, that's one of the things that they do that's really special, is they provide hope for people that may not be in a good situation. It's an incredible resource for people when they're first diagnosed. It's an incredible resource, and it also links you with people. Like the other day I was on a webinar, and this is really, you're watching cancer webinars, but it was very intriguing because it was like, okay, what are the futures of CML? What is the what are the thoughts of weaning people off of medicine and reducing their dosage, or just stopping medicine? Am I kind of geeking out to that stuff now? Yeah, a little bit, because I can relate to it. LLS does a lot of those things and puts together, and they get doctors to talk about new breakthroughs, and part of it is sponsored by the pharmaceutical company. I know that, but as much as it is sometimes sponsored by the pharmaceutical companies, it's also breakthroughs that LLS is helping to sponsor and helping to get out there. And they have done a good job, and they're starting to do a better job about raising awareness. And the more you get out there and the more you talk to people, if you talk about your cancer, odds are someone that's gone through something similar. I had no idea what multiple myeloma was. But that's part of part of the blood cancer umbrella. What CML? What leukemia? When I first got diagnosed with leukemia, I thought it was a kind of a childhood leukemia, a kids thing only. It's not. It's primarily it affects older people. It affects young people, but more older people. These are the things you don't know. We're learning more every day. And LLS is really good at that. So they're good at actually telling telling the story, informing people, and also they're pretty good at putting people together with resources that can help them get through the hard parts of the sickness. So that's what makes it important for me. There's too many people that I run into that are almost afraid to tell other people that they have gone through cancer treatment because they're afraid of how people will look at them through work and everything. It's like, no, we can't do that anymore. You should be proud that you're fighting, and then I'll fight with you.
Those are pretty powerful words. So, and I'm sure that you've had an impact on a lot of people.
I hope to do it more. Like I really want to. I get a lot of energy out of talking with other people who have been through a lot of the same things as me. And like, if people are struggling, just sometimes saying, I gotcha. And, I've been there too. And here's a couple things that I do to relax. And here's, when I come home from treatments, or or I've heard a friend who after their chemo, they come home and this, and sometimes those little things, like if it's getting a frozen custard from your favorite custard stand or something like that, like sharing things. Like I just, someone that I've known for 30 years, I found out that she had breast cancer and was going through treatments during COVID, and I didn't know about it. Like this is who I considered a fairly close work friend. We shouldn't be scared of talking about our diagnosis and scared of talking about it. So, and I know LLS is one of those organizations that is helping make it okay to talk about our fight.
Yeah.
And, Komen does it. All the American Lung Association does it. They all are. It's making it more mainstream.
Well, it seems like they're all doing, like, they all have very positive intentions and all doing a lot of positive work to try to help bring together everyone as a community to support each other and work through this together.
Yep. There's strength in numbers.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the numbers are increasing, which is not good. But there's also an increase in treatments, and there's hope. So,
I have one more question. This might be a bit difficult, so if you need a minute to answer it, that's okay. So, we talked about sunsets or sunrises.
Sunrises,
and you never really know when your last one is going to be. After your last sunrise, what do you want people what's like the message you would want to leave people with?
I have thought about that a lot. You do think about it. You think about it in the hospital room. You think about it when you're struggling. You think about it when you get like going through cancer it's just a series of tests. Okay. What am I, you get the notification from your doctor, and now it comes on your app, and it's almost like a video game. It's like, oh, hey, where are my numbers? So for me, it's a BCR ABL 1. Okay. That sounds like a really strange thing, but that's my Philadelphia chromosome. That's what my leukemia is. When you get a downturn or you think about that, it's like, what did I leave the right legacy? If I die tomorrow, did I leave the right legacy? There's a couple things I think about, and I have thought about this a lot. First and foremost, I don't have any regrets. Like I've worked my butt off. I'm very proud of my family. When I want to do something or get something, I do it and I get it. And I've really kind of lived that way for everything. So I've said it from the beginning of my diagnosis. If tomorrow is the last sunrise, it'll be shitty, but I don't have any regrets. Like there isn't anything like, God, I really wish I would have done that. I've done almost everything I really wanted to do because I've kind of lived my life thinking, if you want something, just go after it. Okay. But I hope people understand that. I know my family understands that. That's like, sometimes dad is crazy. Like, why would he drive? He'll drive 3 hours out of his way to go to a distillery in Kentucky because he loves bourbon or wants to see this special thing. It's like Clark Griswold, the biggest ball of twine. I'm one of those type of people. It's like if I'm in a place like Ecuador, I want to get the most experience out of everything. I really don't have any regrets, and that's what I want people to understand. Don't be sad if I die. Celebrate that I didn't miss anything. Like yes. Have I been to China? No. Have I been to Russia? No. I would like to do those things, but I don't feel like I'm not 100% fulfilled if I don't do those things. It would be great if I get to them, but I have no regrets that I really lived my life in a positive way, had an incredible impact on my family, the people I work with, the people I meet. I've had a chance to do some amazing things and meet incredible people like you. I mean, I just, things like that, I try to make the most out of every little trip and every little thing I do. So I have no qualms or no regrets. And if it's tomorrow, I want people to say, damn, he did it good. He did it his way. That's corny, but like he didn't like slow down because he got cancer. He, if anything, sped up a little bit, but didn't change the way he was. I want people at work to say, wow, you're amazing. And you have cancer? That's crazy. I don't want to lead with the fact that I have cancer. I want people to appreciate, God, he's a really neat guy, or he's done this, or he's done so many good things for people. And oh, by the way, he also has cancer. So if I'm remembered for those things, that'll be pretty special. And I think I've done that. I think I've done enough where, it's like, there's a lot that I want to do, but if I don't get to it all, it's not the end of the world. For me, I won't feel like I've been unsuccessful if I don't get it, because I might die tomorrow. And listening to your other podcasts, and especially that one, when you listen to someone and it's on tape and it's on this and that, and then, when you and I talked and, to find out that he is no longer here. I want people to understand that, hey, I'm good with whatever happens. Like, I'm going to be positive about whatever happens. And if I don't beat it, and and that's not an option, by the way. But if I don't beat it, like every moment I'm with my kids or every moment I'm with my wife or my family and stuff like that, I'm making the most of it. And so I want them to say, hey, let's celebrate that he did. And he didn't sit by and mope because he had this horrible disease. He made the most of it. And then and he said, God damn, he was a cool guy. Oh yeah. And oh, by the way, he also had cancer. So if that's the way you remember me, I'm pretty cool with that.
I'm sure they'll remember a lot more positive things than just that. I feel like you have a lot of positive impact on people, whether it's intentional or not. I think it just kind of comes off that way. So
appreciate that. Yeah,
I think I can say, like, I can't speak for everyone else, but I will, that that I think that, I think everybody who's met you and engaged with you and spent time with you is extremely grateful for that time, and it has left a positive impact. And you can see it. I don't know that, like I said, I don't know the rest of your family, but I mean, the way Christopher is, people don't grow up that way without a positive role model. So
thank you. That means a lot. And I pride myself in that. I've given a lot to my family. They are the closest things to me. So yeah, very important. So thank you for that.
No problem. Well, we can wrap up the episode there. I really appreciate taking the time to come on today, and hoping that somebody listens to this and
all 4 people. Other than my family, maybe I may force them to do it, but I really appreciate you, talking me into it, because I still don't think, maybe I'm self-deprivating or whatever it is, but I still don't think I'm entertaining or exciting enough to do that. But if I can affect someone or make someone feel better, that makes me feel good.
Good. Well, I'm sure somebody is going to prove you wrong that this is important, and so, but we'll leave it at that. Thank you again, and I'm looking forward to the next climb or next adventure, which as soon as I stop recording, I'm going to tell you about.
Sounds good. All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.